this meeting to order.
Does David need to be in here?
Nope. You get us.
All right.
Thank you for coming tonight, Annie. We're gonna jump right ahead to the budget hearings. We are talking about budget 1610, town clerk.
All right.
Does everybody know Annie? You guys all know
Yeah.
Annie. We have 2 new members, hopefully.
Okay.
16.
All right. I don't know if you got all these, I don't know what you guys got. So, do you have all these things, the contract things and all of that?
Yep, we have 3 pages, the budget, the
Level.
impact on the budget, and then the contract list.
Yeah, the
Okay.
contract list.
All right. So the,
So what are the changes?
the town clerk budget, the only change is in the contractual, for my assistant. I'm still trying to get her promotion that she didn't get it last year, so I'm hoping to get that this year up to head administrative clerk, because that's the work she does, so that's in there. And then.
Is that under clerical salaries?
It's under the, it's under that clerical salaries, yep. So,
Now, I know we talked about it. Is it because of us, because of funding that she didn't get promoted?
no, she got,
Oh, okay.
she got funded the money
Oh, okay.
we got funded the money last year to give her the step, up to head administrative, but the selectmen didn't do it. So,
Oh.
They voted it down?
they never even took it up for a
Oh.
vote. So I'm hoping that they're gonna take it up this year for a vote.
We just have this, and
No,
the
I meant the
contracts.
step salaries that we had last
Oh, I have one here, I think. Oh, I might have left it downstairs.
That's okay.
One of these?
No, for the, I think I might have left it downstairs. But it shows it on this page here. Right now, her rate that she's getting is 2403. Yeah, that's what she's looking for, yeah,
Yeah.
Look at that one.
yeah. So she's head clerk, step 3, I think it is, 2403.
2403. So step 3, let's see, I just gotta find 2403 someplace on step 3. Here it is. She's head secretary.
Right,
And you wanna kick her up a step.
yeah, I want to get her up to head administrative.
And that would be step 4 or step 3?
No, that would be up into the, would
Yeah,
be.
I know, but when she gets.
Oh, she would be, it would be the same thing, step
Step
3.
3?
Well, she's actually going to go up to step 4
Yeah,
in May,
okay.
because her anniversary is May 26th. So she'll
Yeah,
go
I-
up to
I know
step
we're
4.
working on getting everybody to a July 1st anniversary date.
Yeah.
Does that affect that computation at all? If it's, is it by her anniversary date, or do we do by July 1st?
Well, I think it was just the the department heads that you were doing July 1st, not,
So the department heads are by July 1st, and the contracts themselves are July 1st for compensation adjustments on the COLA increases. So if there's a 2.5%, that kicks on July 1st. However, the anniversary date allows you to be able to progress from one step to the next.
Oh, I see.
yeah.
That was my question. What determines whether you move up a step? Just
Well, you,
time?
in the first 5 years, you move up steps, and then after that, it takes you a couple of years, a few years to go to the next step.
Are
But
there like goals in that year you have to hit to go up the step?
no, it's just an
just like-
anniversary, it's just your anniversary date, you
Right.
go
So
up.
there's no educational requirements like the fire department and those?
Not really, I mean, she's getting education.
Of course, yeah,
but-
the experience of the
Right,
job,
and
yeah.
she's also going to classes, she's, any class that I can send her to, I've been sending her to. So she is in my department, but I don't know that it's a requirement in any of the other departments, but, so then she'll go up to the 2690, and what I want to get her up is to the 2824.
So is that one step or, oh, she missed
26,
one,
24?
right?
2824.
2824, wait a minute. If she's at 2403 right now, she's step That's step 4 on a head secretary.
That would be her rate, right, when
That's
she,
what her rate is now?
that would, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, that's what her rate would be as of May 26th,
What would be her rate?
2403.
Oh, so right now she's at 2288?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then I want to get her up to, her rate on July 1st to the 2690.
2690,
Yep.
okay, all right.
Yep, and then she would go up, on her, in the following May, she would go up to the 2824. Sorry.
Okay.
When she hit, yeah, her 5th step.
So instead of going to 2523,
Mm-hmm.
want her to go to,
Yep. Because the job that she does is a head
2689.
administrative job as assistant town clerk. She has to run the office and do things when I'm not there. She has to swear people in, she has to, sign documents that, require,
So you can waive the time requirement and push someone up if they're doing more work? or-
yeah.
That makes
As long
sense.
as the selectmen, agree to it and move them up, which is what I'm trying to do, because that's what, when I went in at a lower rate till I got trained what I was supposed to do, and then Nancy put me up, and that's the same thing that I've been trying to do with Sharon.
That's good. Okay.
Then the other one is my salary with a 3% raise
that's
in it.
contractual, right?
No,
Shit.
we are,
No.
Oh,
we
that's right.
approve her
That's
board,
right, that's
or
right.
we
You're not-
recommend
You're
her
not
board.
contractual, I
My,
forgot.
my salary is decided on the town
Yeah.
town meeting floor.
But it is sort of contractual because
No, it's not.
you've made a contract. It's not a union contract.
Well, I don't have a contract, no.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Is
No,
this
she's
the
an
only
elected official.
department?
I'm
She's
the
the
only
only
one, because I'm a elected official. I'm the only full-time elected official. So in the beginning, when they say we're trying to we want the salaries for the Board of Selectmen, the Board of, to be whatever, mine is in there. It's the only full-time position that is in that vote.
Okay. So you have to negotiate every year?
I have to,
pretty much?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but she comes up to us,
yeah,
Selectmen and the finance committee,
yeah,
yeah,
and then the town meeting.
yeah.
approves it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you go through the election and someone else wins, is it the salary a different salary, or they just
They
rotate?
take the salary
Same
that's
one?
on the, yep, which it was what happened to me
That
when I
came
took
up.
it, yeah.
In other words, they said,
Yeah.
I could run, I know nothing about the job,
Mm-hmm.
but theoretically, if I got elected,
The money was yours,
Yeah.
yep.
Wow, okay.
So that has
Okay.
has a 3% raise in it. And then everything else is funded, sorry, from last year. There's no changes.
And Annie, every department head that's come in, I've asked the question, where do you see your needs in the next 3 years? Where do you see your department going, and what do you think your department is going to need?
That's a good question. In the town clerk, we're doing well, as far as getting things onto the computer, trying to get everything, on computers as opposed to paper. My needs are more under the election, and registration budget in my office, because they got the early voting. There's a possibility of having, notebooks like the poll books, instead of doing the paper books, it's all electronic. That's where we're focusing on getting, other than the fact that I need a new rug in my office, because it's falling apart. But we're trying to deal with that end of it right now, because the state is in the process of, they've accepted poll books for elections, but they're in the process of putting a procedure together and how they would work. So we're waiting on that so that we can get into those. And so then I would need 8, 10 of those for my election, so everything would be done. So when you came in, you would give your name and they would bring it up and check you in that way.
So no more flipping pages, what
Yeah,
street do you live on?
right,
Okay.
right.
So a poll book is like a computerized?
It's a computerized,
Like a tablet? Like an
yeah, it's a
iPad?
tablet, yeah, it has a potential to, you could scan your license, although in Massachusetts, you're not required to, but you could scan your license, and it would bring your name up, and it checks you in, and then it has a program where you can hook it right into the state computer that I have in the office. We each have one, and it automatically inputs everybody that votes. Because right now, Sharon scans in each voter one at a time. She scans them in, so this would automatically do it for you. They're around 1,500 a poll pad. So, and then you would have to have your software up, whatever the software program was, and it would probably be a yearly fee, but it's a good way to go, and you can use it for town meeting too. You can use it for checking for town meeting.
Right, right.
And right now, you can use it for early voting, so you could check people in with that and hook it into this computer and download who voted early, because at the presidential election, Sharon and I were there hour, half, 2 hours after the office closed, inputting everybody that early voted every day.
Oh, wow.
So it was a big process.
Well, that's interesting.
Yep.
That's good to know.
It's not
Yeah.
gonna break the bank.
Yeah.
That's not the answer I was expecting at all.
No,
I mean, not that I had an expectation of one way or the other, but that's a really good need.
it is,
It
yeah.
would really progress the town,
It would
too.
progress it, yeah, and it would make it easier for everyone involved.
It
But
really
right
would.
now, it's not a process that we should, I'm not ready to take it on fully yet, because they haven't put the procedures in place, and they're also talking about maybe possibly taking away checkout tables. So if they take away checkout tables, that's 4 less that I need.
Right.
So I'm waiting to see
How it all
how it
shakes
out ends up. I'd like to get a couple, if I have money in my budget, a couple of them to deal with early voting next November, because you can use them now.
Oh, okay.
And then I could use them for town meeting as well. But to buy a whole slew of them for elections, I want to wait to see how it all ends up at the end and find out exactly how many I would need.
Yeah,
So
no,
did you
that's-
put any money in to buy even 1 or 2 for now?
I haven't, I approached capital budget last year with it, and I'm gonna go back and talk to them again. And I do have some money in, I have an account that has, it's extra polling money that we get from the state, and I used some of that money to buy a spare voting machine, because I had gone to the town meeting to get 2 of them, and so I bought a spare one, so that if we have a malfunction on one of them, we can put a spare one in.
Oh, wow.
And I might have some money in that to buy at least 2 of the poll pads at this point. But I have to wait to see where my budget ends up.
I have a question for you. Your dues and meetings, town meeting approved 700, and you've already spent 830.
Yeah, some of that, if you look underneath, where is my budget here? Right here.
Dollars, we gotta examine that.
You see that annual school, dues and meetings and annual school?
Yep.
They're basically interchangeable.
Okay,
So,
that's where the slush fund is.
that's where it comes over. So it's it's different.
Okay.
If I don't do an annual school, I can do a conference, and that money comes from that,
Okay.
because it's a bottom line budget.
You were hiding money.
Yeah.
I know, this is the first I've heard about this account from the state. What is that?
Let's say, oh, shoot.
I know. I'm all over that. It's like white on rice.
It's,
Let's hear it.
we get money back from the state for extra polling hours and stuff, and they had set up a revolving account to put it in, and I use it for different things that I can't pay for out of the budget, like overtime, or like Sharon's overtime for early voting and that, and if I have to I had to hire extra poll workers for early election, for the early voting on the election day, and I paid for them out of that, and
Does it have to
paid
be-
for
it has
all
to
the
be-
supplies that I needed for early voting, the ballot boxes that I had to put the early voting ballots in, and I had to buy storage boxes to store all, because you can't get rid of anything for 22 months after the election, and you have to keep them all tied up and neat, so I had to buy more boxes for that, you know, so that's what I'm gonna use it for.
Does it have to be used for election related?
Anything for elections, it can't be used for anything else.
Okay, so no
yeah.
trips to Vegas,
No, no trips to Vegas, no, no. Yeah.
no cars.
Interesting. No cars are coming out of that account.
Yeah.
All right, does anyone have any other questions on this budget? Not hearing any, let's move on to 1630.
And this is, you know, pretty self-explanatory. We have 2 more elections this year. We had one the past fiscal year. We're gonna have 3 this fiscal year. So it's basically based on what I asked for in 2017 when we had 3 elections. I mean FY '17 when we had 3 elections too. The only difference in there is talk on the, there's talk of early voting for primaries, so 5 days, so I threw some extra money in that line in case that actually happens, and so that I have some extra money to run for early voting for that. But it looks like it's probably not gonna happen. I threw an extra $500 in there. And then the other difference is if you look at line 5117, the federal census,
Yeah.
that's a payment, it's the stipend that Nancy had gotten in the past for doing work for the federal census 2020, which I've already started doing work for.
Oh, wow.
It's $4,000, and she got it over 4 years, but I didn't put it in last year, so I'm looking to get it over 3 years. And, because I already started working with the Luca program, trying to update all the addresses and the mapping and putting in new houses and you know, making sure we have the same addresses. So I'm putting in for that because I think I should get it, I guess. Because it is extra work. I actually have had to stay after I did today to do work on that because you can't get it done during the day.
How much is the stipend?
$4,000.
Makes sense.
What, is that the
Machines.
4016?
No,
Good.
this
No,
1,334,
the
it's
town, that's
1/3.
coming, that comes from the town
Yeah,
for the census?
yep.
Does the town receive anything?
No.
So it's just a stipend that she gets?
Yep.
Who's the appointed official?
The appointed officials.
5111.
Oh, that's me for my elections, and it is the Board of Registrars.
Okay, just curious.
They get a stipend every year.
And the other salaries, is that for
Other salaries is for,
early vote, possible early
Yeah,
voting, overtime for Sharon?
yep, and also the constables, when they post any
Okay.
warrants or anything that need to be posted throughout the year.
All right, does anyone have any other questions on this budget? All right, I think we have one more to go through.
Yeah, we have the Veterans Memorial Day.
All right, and that's
Is
69.
it our turn this year?
No,
Okay.
next year.
Can I ask a question, though? The election officials doubled.
The election
Yeah,
officials.
line 5306.
Oh, yeah, that's because of
2 more elections.
2 more elections, and then with the state election in November, there's a possible audit. So if we get audited, I need funding, because then we'll have to recount the ballots. You put that in for me 2 years, 2 years ago as well, and I didn't use it, so I gave it back to the town. It's in, and there's also a buffer in there for a recount, so.
And
if-
so the two elections are the town election and the.
There's- There is the town election, yeah. Well, we start off with the primary in September,
Oh, okay.
state primary, and then we have the state election in November, and then we would have the town election in April.
Okay,
So there's 3.
okay.
What's in the other supplies?
That is food for the election workers, basically. Food and supplies that, I need, because we feed them. So,
Huge increase.
Well, 1 election to 3.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
It looks like it's in line with 17 for the most part. All right, let's move on to 6920, the Veterans and Memorial Day.
That is, it's,
Straightforward.
yep, it's not a year that we have the parade in our town, so it's not the 2,500. 1,500 is what I usually get, but, it went up. The cost of flags went up. We use 14 boxes of flags every year but we put on the graves for the veterans. And, it went up significantly last year, and I was not able to, I usually give money to Chris to buy flags for the town, and I wasn't able to give him any money, because I had barely had enough to buy what I needed. So I just wanted to put another $200 buffer in that to make up for the fact that it went up. Because I spent 14 something, just barely the $1,500 on, and then I also have to pay for, any printing, even though it's not our town turn. When we print up the pamphlets, the 3 towns split the cost.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions on this budget?
No.
No? All right. Well, since that are are you guys members now? Or
We are.
you were
Were
appointed?
they sworn in?
Appointed, we haven't been sworn in.
They may-
Annie
all
has
right.
to swear them in.
All right, so let's take a quick recess so that they can be sworn in.
Why, you don't wanna get sworn in on camera?
Guys, thank you, Mike, for coming in. How are you?
You good, how you doing?
Good. And we are talking about budget 2410.
So is this the latest and greatest?
Yeah, so
This is for the-
basically,
Seeing impaired.
Like me.
I can take my glasses off.
I think
Is there another one
the
of these?
3 line items that changed were 5111, the appointed official was a.
Just a moment, can we have one more copy, please?
Sure.
Actually, 2 more copies. You're gonna need one as well. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, thank
No
you.
problem, that.
Thank you.
Reference number 1, which is line item 5111, appointed official was a contractual increase to myself.
Now, we're talking about your line going up 2,689.
Yeah, and it's,
Okay.
it's already, it's
It's
right
in the
there.
book.
It's right there, and they put it right there, but it, yeah, it's
Okay.
contractual.
Just making sure they all match.
The next one down's line 5112, the clerical salaries, an increase of 1531. Another contractual increase to the clerical salary.
And that's contractual, you said.
Yep. That same line, we're looking to add a 16-hour, another clerk.
Clerical salaries, you said, is contractual. It's going up 37.94%.
Yeah, it's a 2-part. The 1531 is contractual to the office administrator. Then we're looking to try to add another secretary for 16 hours a week due to the volume of work in the office.
Yeah, if you look at his, it's like 15
Didn't we
here.
talk about this last year? Is this something we talked about last
I
year?
think we did touch on it.
77,000 and 21,000 increase, it didn't match up to the 1531, okay.
So I had provided, I think attached to that sheet's a 7-year look at the building department activity, which actually, the fees and the construction values don't really tell the picture. I actually listed some anomalies with 3 of the 7 years that were large solar projects. And the biggest one was 3.6 million in construction cost, with a permit fee of almost 36,000. So if we deducted those out, it would bring the numbers closer. Looking at it, they're
Yeah.
way off, but
What are we
there's,
looking at? I'm not
Yeah.
really sure what this is.
well, the years listed, that's just the activity of the building department, how many new homes, manufactured additions, and then as you go to the right, for each year, the electrical fees, the plumbing and gas, the total fees the department collected, and then the total construction value of all the projects that were built in the town for that year.
So you're saying the anomalies are
Yeah.
funds that came in that should not be anticipated to continue?
Exactly, or over the other 4 years, it's showing there's some of it, the disparity, like the 3.6 million in construction costs for one project and a permit fee of almost 36,000, that's significant, which would, if we deducted those out, bring the numbers closer on those 3 years that look like they're off the charts right now.
Right.
So, I'm a little confused. The
Yeah.
total new construction value, 2016 was 21 million?
Yeah,
And yet 2017 is only 8 million.
8 million? It says 8 billion.
No, he just.
No, it's
he
8
left
million.
it
He's
in.
No,
got,
just one has
he put a decimal point
Two
on that
decimal
one.
points in there.
That's
So-
what I wanted to clarify.
Well, I'm
feels
stuck
like
at-
there's been $8 billion worth of activity.
So actually 2017 wasn't a very active year then?
Numbers wise, although dwellings and some of the numbers on the construction are up, like the new homes and the manufactured homes. And that's something else we're looking into. I think the permit fees, part of my goals last year, I did just the building. I need to do the electrical and plumbing and gas. But it looks like the numbers are way off on the fees.
You need to do what? I'm sorry.
Just
I'm not
adjust
following.
it. I think that's part of the anomaly too. Some of the permit fees are close to I think I did 10 to 12 communities based on the Department of Revenues, how they gauge us against other similar budgets in other communities.
And you feel that your level of what you're charging for fees is not appropriate
And I
for,
think
that it's
low.
not peer to
Yeah,
peer?
some of it, I think, like the single-family homes averaged against those other communities, I think we were like half. But others are closer, so there's a lot of anomalies, and it's hard to,
I'm sorry, I'm really having a hard time following this. I'm not understanding what you're trying to tell us.
I think I'm just on the numbers, trying to show the activity, and then the anomalies, those 3 very large solar projects. If we took that construction cost off the year, just say the 2012 line, you went to the total fees.
Right,
and
but
took-
what is it that you're trying to convey?
Just trying to show, even though the numbers on the paper looks like this is a down year, that it's closer than it really is because there's some anomalies in 3 out of the 7 years listed on here.
So just to take a step back though, what you're trying to show is the level of activity that you're experiencing. How much you're collecting in fees each year and how much the value is of the construction that the town is adding? Is that what you're trying to
Yeah.
show us? And then you have a couple of years where you think you have some anomalies
that's
based on big projects?
Spiked high because of large solar projects.
Okay, I think I'm with you.
So you're trying to show the increased activity? Is that?
Yeah.
Just showing an overview.
Yeah.
He's asking for major increases in salary.
Yeah, he is. He's asking for a
So
new,
this is some of the
he's
justification.
asking
Then
for-
beyond that, most of it's things that aren't quantified by being charged, which I have listed below, which we've had a tremendous amount of zoning reviews. A lot of it's potential new buyers, either a home or a business. The banks want something in writing, typically from the building department, that whatever they're purchasing is legit, there's no outstanding violations and that type of thing. Or if it's a new business coming through, that is it allowed, what zone it's in, and any process they may have to go through, which is a tremendous amount of research. That some of them, the smaller ones we're not charging for, it's people come to the window, what zone am I in, can I do X, Y, and Z, and I break the book out and look at it and check some other things to make sure they're not in the water protection district or things like that. Or may have to go through some process through the zoning board or planning board to get the approval or special permit.
So that's something you do charge for or you don't charge for?
Typically, if they want it in writing, which the bigger commercial ones do, if there's movement on a commercial building, they want it in writing. A lot of them have forms that they'll send me that I have to fill out that are like 5 or 6 pages asking every zoning question that there is that could pertain to it. If it's in it, if it's out of it, and just
So you charge for those?
those we do, just $40 fee to do that.
Does that cover the cost of doing it?
No, that's just the fee. That's probably not covering my time to do it.
And it's not covering the cost of expanding. I think
No.
you would first have to visit raising the fees so that it can fund an
Yeah.
expansion. I think we might want to look at raising fees before expanding the
Yeah.
department. I mean, I appreciate what you're doing here. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure I'm understanding what you're trying to
So
convey.
we're working on that. Like I said, part of my goals from the town administrator last year. I think too, because I didn't have the whole year to do it, I got a really late start, and to try to do the plumbing, electrical, and gas would have been too much. So I did the building, and I think that for this year, I have the electrical, plumbing, and gas, so I can tie everything together.
So
And-
you did some analysis of comparing the fees that we are charging to the fees that other towns are charging? Did you
Yeah.
bring that with you
No, I
here?
did not.
So you think overall our fees are a little bit low, and the volume of work that you have is high, and that's why you're asking for an additional
Yeah.
clerk?
And who sets the fees? Is it the
It's
selectmen?
actually, yeah, so the building department, by the Mass General Law that governs it, the fees are supposed to cover our entire operation, whatever it takes to run it without being overwhelmed. They come in and pay that specific fee for us to do
Right,
something,
right,
not
right.
bring it in here, buy new highway trucks or do whatever. It's specific to that. So if whatever it takes to run it's not cutting it, if it was grossly off, you would look at the fees, which we have, and then, like I said, the building right now, it looks like it was almost across the board that they were off on the average of all those communities by half.
So, but you're saying, do this 135,000 that you brought in fees in 2017, is that a calendar year or a fiscal year?
This is calendar.
So it's hard to kind of equate whether that really covered, because this is fiscal, right? So, but it's somewhere, it's pretty close, it looks
Yeah.
like, right? So you bought enough money in,
Yeah.
pretty close to what you were spending, and that's really what you're supposed to be doing
Yeah.
according to the laws? Okay, that's helpful.
Basically, you can't by mass law be an enterprise account, but it's supposed to basically be like that.
Self-supporting.
Self-supporting.
So you can't raise the fees significantly, because then you'd be making money, and that's
Yeah,
not
you
really
can't,
allowed.
that's
No,
not
right.
allowed by law.
Right.
So on that sheet, I just list other things, like the special permit packages I talked about. If a new business came and they did require a trip to either the zoning board or planning board, they bring in 17 packets that we take everything in and have to go through that and then assemble all 17 copies of everything. And most of those commercial projects have a ton of documentation, and then we send those out to all the town departments for their review, and then they send any comments to whichever board was hearing it. So stuff like that, we don't charge a fee at all, but that takes hours and hours and hours.
So can we?
I would assume that we should be able to, the board that's hearing the actual
Yeah.
case is charging. But there's things like that that aren't equated to any kind of
Right.
figure.
So if somebody just comes up to your window and says, I want to put a deck on, what's kind of my guidelines, you don't really charge for that, right? For
No,
some
that's
consultation.
just, yeah,
Charge for
so
the
there's
permit.
a lot of that. Yeah, when the permit comes
Comes in,
in, we
yeah.
charge, so I guess that would be part of it. If they do, some
Right,
people
just ask.
inquire and then never do anything.
They come into conservation, for instance, and
Yeah.
they'll chat, but there's no
Right.
fee for chatting.
Right,
It comes later on when
when you apply.
When you collect.
right.
Actually
So,
gonna do it,
I'm
yeah.
just kind of curious, you got your head administrative clerk's salary at $31. Now, I don't see $31 on this sheet anyplace.
Yeah,
Well, there should be another two.
Oh, 2 years. There you go. Oh, that's not good.
Tell me what mechanical is here, how you
Danny was
define it.
telling us
These are
what's wrong.
inspections, I assume, not
Those are permits.
permits. Well,
So
ultimately,
mechanical would be like the new HVAC systems being put in.
You'd have to inspect it though
Yeah.
eventually, yeah. So it's just kinda getting a feel for how many trips into the field people have to make. Are they multiple trips sometimes?
Yeah, the additions and stuff aren't that bad, but new dwellings, commercial buildings can, if it's a big one, that can be a lot, especially if there's,
They gotta come back, and
Yeah.
they gotta come back again, and, yeah.
but the biggest thing, just the amount of volume in the office. Right now, we've got, the senior work-off girls that come, Jan's here, one of them. But they pretty much, if Karen's gone, either vacation or whatever it is, they come in to cover. And by the end of the year, there isn't enough hours for them to totally cover her time off. So it's the madness of the office. She gets overwhelmed, people on the phone, at the
Sure.
window.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff I'm taking on, which is hindering me typing letters and helping with permits, we wouldn't be able to keep up.
So what's the
And-
process for increasing the fees, Dave?
Our Board of Selectmen vote.
So you have to figure them out, and then you take them to the board and they vote on them?
So that'll be, once this year's goals, I believe, will be the plumbing, electrical, and gas. I'll make that a priority to get the whole package together, so they
Do
can.
that anytime.
Department of
Yeah.
priority. Why don't you make the building department a priority?
That's already done, but I need to, like I said, I think when I got the goals last year, I don't remember how much, but wasn't afforded the entire January to December. I think I had 6 months to do it, so I think David knocked off the electrical, the gas, and the plumbing, because it was a lot of work to do just the building department. It was
So did we actually get adjustments for the building
Yeah.
department?
we haven't gone down that road. I think we'd want to do the whole package, because the electrical, plumbing, and gas falls under the fees, at least under the building department, to do them all at once and not do one and then go back.
So you did
6
the
months.
analysis, but you haven't actually gone through the whole process, is that what you're saying?
I've done the analysis for the building only, and
Yeah.
this year, actually just last week, I believe, the electrical, plumbing, and gas is one of my goals from David, to get that comparison done. So I'm gonna get on that as soon as possible. And then, like I said, it's better to present the whole package and have all the permit fees for the department from the same year accepted, or whatever they do, if they change
So
them.
that's gonna be like instant money.
So
Once
if
you
you
get it
want a
through.
permit, we should come now to get it.
Well, what's been the holdup? Why not separate it out? I mean, if you could have gotten higher fees for some of it up to this point, why not bring it to the board
Right.
and get their approval?
Right.
Why wait?
Right.
Get the money so that you can fund expansions.
Yeah, I guess we could do that.
I mean, if you're saying you want to expand, let's talk about the money.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, I don't wanna speak on behalf of the board, but the reality is that as a resident, you don't wanna come one year, be told the fees are this, and 6 months later, maybe we got some of it else done, and you got fees again. It should be clean, we should look at it one time, and again, there's no guarantee the Board of Selectmen are going to wanna approve raising fees. You know, we've talked about this with the transfer station, and every time we look at increasing the fee at the transfer station, which doesn't cover the cost, there's been a lot of pushback on that.
Yeah, but everybody in town
So-
uses, mostly everybody in town uses the transfer station, but you know, there's no, there's no trash pickup in West Bridgewater. I mean, I have trash pickup on my street, but I still bring my recycling. But there's no trash pickup in West Bridgewater, so you got a captive audience, so you're gonna piss off more people by raising the transfer station fee than by raising the permits. And in a town where we sit and we analyze what the towns do around us and try to bring ourselves into some type of place where we're, you know, comparable, thank you. Why are we waiting?
And we're talking about investing and building the department. You need money to do that. It would make sense to get the funds so that
You'd
you can
have the
do it.
funds pretty quickly, it's right away.
Right.
How long do you think it would take you to do the analysis for the ones that you still have left to do? I mean, are you close enough that,
I actually I think, when did I get that? I haven't even signed it. I just, within days, just got his goals.
yeah,
I set 2 goals and he gives 2 goals for the year.
so you think it's still a ways away? To
could-
to Meredith's point,
Probably a
like,
couple months, I would say. I have to,
Could you educate me, doesn't the state provide some guidelines or some publication that indicates what towns are charging for these
Oh,
fees?
no, they really don't.
They don't compile that information. I'm surprised.
But, you know, other communities have to be going up on their fees. I would be curious to see what our fees are in relation to other towns, since you bring it up. I mean,
Well, you said we're a little low, so.
Yeah.
and if you need this kind of money to expand your department, that's gotta be a priority.
The other thing too, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the ISO audit at the insurance services, which actually this will be the first time for me in West Bridgewater. I had done it, I think twice in Bridgewater, gone through it. Usually it's 5 years or less. I don't know how long it takes them to do all the cities and towns in the Commonwealth. But basically, I think they're slated for April the 10th or something like that. They're coming. So when they go through that process, there's a scale of 1 to 10, 10's the worst, and they go through everything, how many permits you did, your fees.
The
And
state comes in and audits us?
No, you said the insurance.
Yeah,
the
it's
insurance,
ISO, they do the entire, actually, I believe they do the police, the fire, and the building department. So basically, they come through, they sent me a book with 1,000,000 questions with them. Some of it I have to get information from the assessors, but they ask how I do plan reviews, how many inspections, everything to do with our department. Then at
Who is the ISO though?
it's
What-
the
what-
insurance services office, actually, I'm not sure who.
Is that a state agency or a federal, like what is
Is that
that?
required by the insurance company?
Yeah, so,
It's more consortium of insurance companies, because insurance, when they decide to rate a town, they will use this office here in their data to determine what the risk is.
yeah,
And one of the additional departments they do is water,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
will check to see as to whether or not you can
Yeah.
carry water to your entire town and what the pressure is, so if you have to put out a fire.
so basically, they'll grill us on everything we do, permit reviews, fees.
And so that's additional work that you guys.
Well, that,
have to do.
what I'm trying to get to, that, the 1 to 10 scale, if they'll figure out if you're undermanned, overworked, your weaknesses, and that will tell, I don't know how they grade that whole thing out, but it becomes a number. And the higher the number, every homeowner and business insurance rate is governed by it. So basically, if my department or the fire or police is doing shoddy work or not keeping up,
Your
there's
homeowners is
more
gonna go up,
risk
yeah.
out there that something, he didn't do a good inspection or he missed this.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the police and fire, but if you drop it, which in Bridgewater, I think I wound up dropping it 3 clicks, 3 numbers down, then it drops all the homeowner policies and the commercial businesses, because you're doing whatever, a better job than another community. There's less risk of a roof collapse or
When was the
something.
last time this audit was done?
I'm assuming about 5 years ago. I think when I started last year that I actually got in touch with them when Steve was here and got the results of the last book. And I believe we're at a 5 right now for residential and a 5 for the commercial.
Okay, right in the middle.
Have you ever noticed in industry, driving by manufacturing plants, you may know
Yeah,
about
ISO
ISO
audits.
certification,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
ISO certified, and
Yeah.
it's the same thing,
Yeah.
only on,
The municipal scale.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. So I'm not really sure where we are as far as the budget.
Where we are is that
we're
he
starting out here.
asking for 23,797 more than last year. I just,
Yeah, I think you gotta look at the fees first. And I'd be curious to see after this ISO audit, where they say your true weaknesses are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see the analysis that you do comparing us to other towns as
Yeah.
well, in terms of what our fees are in
Yeah.
relation to others.
Because
That'd be
it's
really
hard
good
to
know.
justify the increase
know.
without the data.
so
I
I'm.
mean, I know
you
you're
what?
buried in paperwork, there's no
Yeah.
doubt about
Right,
that.
Right,
This-
right.
Can I tell you how, this is my opinion,
Boy.
what it's worth. You know, Annie came in with a much higher budget. And so we're gonna see how the budgets go. If everybody's coming in, you know, this is the second budget, they wanna add somebody else, and the fire chief wanted to kick that secretary up, but that was minimal. I mean, from a taxpayer standpoint, I feel like unless I know what the town is looking at, if the budgets are gonna come in higher, unless we know what we're looking at in terms of revenue, how can we fairly evaluate a budget and do the best job for the taxpayers and the town employees at the same time, which is what we're trying to accomplish. Doing the best job for the town employees means doing the best job for the taxpayers also, because we don't want to cut off our nose to spite our face. So we have to do both, and we can't do that fairly, I feel, unless we know what the town is looking at in terms of revenue. And I think that's going to be an essential part of putting this whole thing together for us.
But I think our job as an advisory role is to look at these and make sure what they're asking for is reasonable, is justified, and I think that's all we're doing at this point, is talking about what
Yeah.
you're saying you need to have this change. Now, what happens if you don't get this change?
I don't know, the volume of work, I'm not sure how many, I think the planning board had at least, 5 or 6 new streets going in, and I think we got 3 at least large 40B projects coming. I know we have almost all of Pleasant Street's gonna be built out shortly with, large buildings and another large one on Manley Street. Basically, what will happen is we'll be swamped. The complaints will go to the manager and the selectmen. I'll end up getting fired because they don't think I'm doing my job. They'll hire someone else and discover that, yeah, Mike was right. He needed help, but we didn't listen.
You're inundated at any time during the fiscal year. You could justify help at that time somehow, can't you?
I mean, I don't disbelieve you at all. I
Right,
I
right.
get a sense that you
Yeah.
are overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
any, have you explored any opportunities for changing processes or changing the way that you do things that would make them
Continually.
more
Yeah.
efficient and less burdensome?
Yeah, continually.
So is there
Actually
like a
working.
software we could get that would help you,
Yeah,
or some?
we're looking at that too.
technology?
I'm hoping down the road to do online permitting. That would benefit everybody because everybody that's,
Yeah.
all the other departments would be able to view the information and see the status along with the contractor or homeowner could go on and see the status of where a permit is or who did what inspections. But like now I'm working with Ed trying with a laptop so I can, when I'm in the field, especially when it comes time for the annual licensing cycle right now, I just handwrite if there's a letter at a business, if there's issues, then come back and usually type it, but I'm working to get the laptop to type the letter right there and sync it, but we're having trouble syncing it to the main network. But that would be huge. Actually, I'll go to the extreme of getting a cheap printer and printing the letter right there and giving it to the business person right on site, eliminating me coming back, finding the time to type the
Yeah, there's
letters,
efficiencies
mailing
that
them.
be found.
Yeah.
It just,
Email, you don't need a printer, just email it.
huh?
You don't need a printer, just
Save it
email
as
it.
a PDF.
Oh, yeah, you could, the people that are up tech savvy, I can just email it to them right then and there. The ones that aren't, I'd probably have to give them a paper copy.
So technology on your list of what do you need in 3 years?
Are any of the other Bridgewaters using
Okay.
the online permitting
Yeah.
system?
Almost all the surrounding communities, I almost daily, the contractors ask, when are we gonna get it? Because it's,
So we're behind.
they can pull the permit from home, they don't have to come in. The other great benefit is, in most of the communities, they can pay the fee online, so the minute they hit it, it's automatically in the town coffers, not us bringing checks downstairs to the clerk, and I don't even know their process, how long that, before that check's actually in the account. The other big bonus is if it knows the funds aren't in the person's account, it won't allow them to do it.
No
So it
bounce.
eliminates all the bounce checks, which is nice.
All right. I think we've heard a lot about this budget. Does anyone have any other questions?
No.
I'd kind of like to
I mean, the
move-
biggest item is the request for increased
Right.
hours.
All right, so moving on to 2420, gas and plumbing.
I don't know, due to the time, I don't know if we got someone else up after me. I'm sure we're burning the time here.
You are, but
Yeah.
If we want to combine the inspector of wires and the plumbing and gas are basically the same request. I think last year I had just started and looked at the previous year budget book quickly just to familiarize myself with the line items and who was getting what, and I saw the stipends for the inspector of wires and the inspector of gas and plumbing and said it just seemed low, but not knowing exactly what they did. So I think last year I tried to explain it, but I just didn't have enough data. So last year I had David Bentley's here, the electrical inspector, and John Cruz track their entire year. So I had all the hours they worked. Whatever, the data's actually attached here. Their mileage, their phone usage. I wound up doing a 7 community comparison for the salary, and the average came out to $22,660. And that was total, then breaking everything out, but there was the base pay, and then, like David, just this weekend had probably 15 after-hour calls, which he has a line item for the intermittent calls, but it's only $200, and last year's actual, he had $1,800, so he ate that $1,600.
What is an after-hours call?
Yeah.
That's if he's not scheduled to be here, if someone's loses the power of the line, him going out at night to fires, or obviously these last several nor'easters, major power outages. So if the service is ripped off the house, the electrician will go and pull the permit, fix it. He's got to inspect it, and then only he can call National Grid to get that live and back up. Grid cannot do it until an electrician does it and he approves it if it's ripped off the house. If it's out on the street, Grid can fix whatever, but anything ripped off the house, that's the process. So obviously he had a ton of call-outs the last few weeks.
Now, you've done this analysis based on information that you looked at, or were you asked to do this analysis?
I did this myself. And then the attached pages, I have this, it took me a while to find the communities that were similar to us. Most communities have full-time inspectors getting benefits, so it was hard to find the smaller communities that were on a stipend similar to this.
So which smaller communities did you find?
Rockland, Rainham was on the same setup, Lakeville, Norton, Middleborough, Halifax.
Oh, so a lot of, okay.
But I got it's listed under each one, what they were getting annually, what they were getting for mileage, what they were getting for after hours, then their average hours that they worked. And then I averaged that out, so it's as fair as it could be. I took the average hours and averaged between the 10 and 14 to 12 and came up with however many hours a year per community.
All right. So between all of the different analyses that you've done, which one is most pressing? Because you're throwing a lot of
I
stuff at
know.
us, saying, I need this, I need this, I need this. What do you really need? If you're told, out of all of these things, you can have one, what would it be?
I would say to correct, even if it sinks the department, his salary and John Cruz, because after we ran the numbers, he's making $12.42 an hour.
Is that his problem or your problem?
It's my problem as the department head to try to fix it.
So these guys are licensed.
And they're complaining and they're refusing to work unless they
I'm
get
afraid
paid?
we'll lose him. I wouldn't want to come here for that kind of money
No, I can understand that.
and get called out in the middle of the night, who knows when.
I agree. I'm just having a hard time understanding what you're putting the most importance on in managing your
Yeah.
department. If you're managing your department and you're saying you want to expand it, I don't think the salaries of the inspectors is where you should be spending most of your time. That's just my point of view. I'm not sure I really
Well, we're not here
gathered
to manage
much.
this department.
I'm not really sure what you need or what you don't need.
We're not here to manage this department, no.
No, we're not here to manage
It's,
this
yeah, it
department,
puts
but
me
it's a
in a
repeat of
difficult
last year.
situation. Do we hire someone to help us in the office?
So
or-
does this speak, though, to the
I don't know
low,
what the answer is right
Yeah,
now.
so that would
Permits,
be
you know,
part
the-
of it. The
the-
fees would be adjusted accordingly.
The fees are part of it.
Yeah, it wouldn't be
I
that big a
don't
deal
think
if
it's
we
focusing on it.
adjust the fees.
right,
It's all over the
to
place.
cover it, right?
Because the fee is impacting the person that's using it, not across the whole town.
Right.
Right, special circumstances.
Well, the
not-
builders,
Right.
Yeah.
The
they're
after
gonna get it
hour,
back, of course,
Do
but
we charge for the
Yeah.
after-hour
I was gonna
calls?
say we do, but there's no mechanism. It goes to the general fund. So like David has 200, but there's no way to, without me right now asking, to bump it to the 1,800, which it would every year change. It fluctuates. When I was in Bridgewater, that was a revolving account just for that. The money went in and stayed there. Then when they got called out, they got paid out of that. So I don't know. I guess every year, yeah, actually, if it stayed and you didn't go over it, you just keep it and revert it back at the end of the year if you didn't use it. Or if it wound up trending high, you bump it up the next year. But those get billed to the incident, wherever the incident happened.
So the fees that we charge for like the after-hours calls and things, are those in your prior numbers that you went through as fees, or that's separate?
No, that's separate because it just goes to them only, that's it.
It goes directly to them?
It doesn't, it would, but when it goes through this process, it has to be in that line item and then charged out when we pay them, which you can only get 200 at the, that's all that's on that line right now. And actually, John Cruz doesn't have it. I don't know why. He gets called out pretty much every incident we all do. He doesn't have that
We
line.
can have another meeting and give us a better understanding of this.
Yeah, I think, I was gonna say that. I don't wanna chew up all your time. It is. It's very detailed and difficult
It's
to
a lot for us to wrap
understand.
our heads around.
It was
And
a
they're
lot
big
for me
numbers.
to put together. I-
Yeah, they are big numbers.
All right, did we look at 1940? Can we jump to that before you leave?
Same thing.
Is it the same thing?
Which budget
Oh,
is
the-
that?
that's
Oh, the
electrical?
town hall.
2450 and 2420 are basically identical.
So now we're going to 1940, which is.
1940 is the town hall. Basically, there's just two changes and the increase in the maintenance contracts. Line 5903 is the elevator maintenance is going up 200. 5904, the sprinkler and fire alarm is going up 350, but those two contracts combined.
how long are the contracts? Are they annuals?
Yeah, they're
only?
annual.
They don't do multis?
No.
Yeah.
All right, does
I think
anybody-
too, like the elevator, they take care of the state inspection, so if the state changed fees, they'd have to change their fee too to cover that.
Sure.
To have the state elevator inspector come down.
Sure. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
That's not a big deal.
all right. Well, I think we'll have to talk about these budgets further so that we can really better understand what
We're not
your first
Yeah.
need
voting
really
on
is.
anything
I mean,
tonight, so.
I hear that you have a lot of needs, and I'm sure they're justified. It's just I don't know what
Yeah.
to focus.
Yeah, I'd
in
like to
on.
come back, and actually, I didn't think to bring the permit fee data that I have, and that can help
I
too.
think that's helpful, yeah, to know.
Do you ever have towns where the gas and electric is the same person?
Nope. You know of anywhere?
No, that would be,
You have
because
the
there's
There's
an electrician and a
multiple that the building commissioner is the electrical
different-
inspector or an alternate,
Special
Tom Easton.
surgeon and a-
I know there's a lot of that.
Need licensing for both, I'm sure.
Yeah, they have to have the
That's so
licenses.
different, yeah.
A surgeon and an oncologist.
I think that the that it's too far, the
And I
plumbing
don't-
and gas is- and
Yeah.
electrical's just
Is he-
They don't even
Totally
complement each
Yeah.
other. yeah.
opposite ends of the
Yeah,
universe.
that was the whole point of it, yes.
Okay.
All right, I think that's it for
Thank you.
today.
All right,
Thank you.
thank
I
you.
know this is
Thank
tough.
you.
This is tough, so we
It
appreciate it.
is, yeah.
All right,
Really
thanks.
do.
Thank you. Alright.
All right, Mr. Mr. Sorrow, you're always gonna be Mr. Sorrow to me. I don't think I'll ever be able to call you Ed.
I know, I don't understand that why. Don't mind my glasses, I forgot mine in the car.
All right, we're jumping to 1550.
Okay. All right, data processing coordinator, just a 3% increase, which I put in for every year. The next two, office equipment, maintenance and engineering, same as previous years, 1,000. Data processing service went down a few $100, and that's based on the quotes I get from KVS and Revise. The network consultant, that's gone up a little bit, and that's based on service contracts. Hub Technical kept their fees the same as they did last year, so I got a list of the renewals that we have there. And that's one of the lines that we share with the school department and the water department.
All right.
Okay, network equipment, basically kept it the same, computer supplies the same. Oh, I'm sorry, internet connection. That went up just a little bit because I increased our service with Comcast over to the water department to increase the bandwidth to get better speed, because the only way we can connect is through the cable. And the other, as I said, computer supplies are the same, and data processing, computer equipment at same also.
Well, that was very straightforward. Does anybody have any questions?
Why
You-
is the internet
5309, is
connection?
that you?
No,
They're
1550.
providing,
We're- we're-
Oh, I'm sorry.
to the water.
5111,
Water department paying for it.
data
Okay,
processing
that's you.
coordinator, yeah.
Okay.
If you're is that line 5326, it's overspent because you're providing high speed to the water department?
Well, we connect through the cable. That's the only way we can connect over there to make them part of our network. So one of the applications that they're using, they really had a hard time trying to connect across the bandwidth that we provided. So I talked to Comcast, we just increased our bandwidth a little bit, and now they can use that
So
program.
why aren't they paying for it?
Because they pay 5% of that line item.
Oh, that's the line item.
That's another
split
one that's
between the
shared.
different apartments.
There's 3 lines that
Oh.
are shared,
And is this one of them?
yes. Yep,
So
that's on the second sheet. There's a breakdown sheet of the shared line items.
Every year we go through this.
Yeah, where it's a certain
Every year.
percentage to the different departments. I don't-
Water department pays 5, the schools pays 55. Police, fire, and the town hall, in the town itself is the other 40.
Yeah, but I know the sheet he's talking
Yeah.
about. We have it right here. It's probably in there with under fire or police or something.
Okay.
You okay?
Yeah,
That looked painful.
no. it's
Said
just
something.
that
I know what you're
if it's
thinking.
not- If it's not,
I know.
why can't you show how much the other departments are paying so we can kind of get an idea?
It is showing that the
It's
other
on the next
departments are
page.
paying.
We don't have the
Where?
other
I don't have that
I don't have
page.
that page.
I provided that.
I'm
We
missing
got
it
it
too.
right here.
Oh, no, it's a,
Oh,
no, that one.
Yeah, I don't
He
have,
has
It was
that.
in my
I don't
packet.
have it either, Jerry.
Yeah.
All right.
It's okay.
It's pretty.
And I got the one with the split, the
We didn't
three-way
get
split.
that one.
You've got the 3-way split?
Yeah.
We didn't get it. Oh, is it just a different
Yeah.
format?
No, that's the three-way split for the internet. We didn't get yours, the yellow one.
We want the pretty one.
But does anyone have any other questions
No.
on the budget?
Thank you.
Okay,
No, thank you very much.
All right.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sorrow.
Someday you're gonna call me Ed.
I don't know. I don't see it anytime.
To your teacher?
Yeah,
I'm an adult now.
but not to a teacher.
I see a lot of my teachers, I don't.
I can't do it.
Dean.
They talk about like
Father.
patio, that's Mrs. Oakley to me.
it was
It's still Mrs. Oakley.
disrespectful, I think.
This is Dr. Oakley, so you're.
Right, so
Yeah, right.
I don't say anything, because I don't know what to say. All right, Chris and Sean, you guys are up.
Oh, boy.
Which one first?
Does everybody know? Do you guys all know? Everybody, that's my Sean.
This is my Chris. I do. Nice, Sean. So
So
they didn't
what
ask
budget
about-
is this?
Oh, boy.
42?
Don't embarrass me in front of everybody.
Which one are we doing? 4215?
4215.
And as you guys all know, Sean and I are married, so I have to recuse myself from all
Oh, yeah,
discussions.
that's right.
I'll vote. I'm not even gonna look at you.
I haven't seen you in a few days anyway, so it's fine.
And you've missed me a lot.
Probably don't
right?
even remember what each other look like with all
More
the
than you
snow, right?
realize.
All right, so the first budget is
Public Works.
Public Works, 4215.
4215, correct. Public Works is a combination or merger of 4 other budgets, you know that? Did you want me to go over that with you?
Just remind me which ones you merged.
The forestry and parks, the highway maintenance and highway, what do we call it?
Public Works, so it's forestry, it's Public Works, snow removal, Public Works.
No. Let me get that straight for you. It's the forestry and the town mechanic, okay?
Mechanic, what budget number is that?
The 4 budgets are 2940, which is parks, forestry and parks, 4210, 4220, which is highway maintenance, and the second highway. What was the second one called?
4600.
No, what was it called? The name is escaping me.
Streetlights?
No. I'll get it. Hang
Vehicle
on.
maintenance.
I don't know why it's
So during
escaping me right now.
One Public Works is 4 different budgets.
Yeah.
General fund,
Yeah.
highway construction and
General fund,
maintenance, and
47.
highway administration.
This one.
Yes.
Okay? 4 budgets, highway administration, highway construction, forestry and parks,
Yeah.
and the mechanic, fleet maintenance.
Vehicle mechanic.
Okay? So those 4 budgets were combined into the new Public Works. Okay? And so that, basically, we took each line item that was in those 4 budgets, and each line item now appears in the Public Works with those 4 budgets combined into the line. Okay? And it made things extremely more efficient and streamlined and easier to deal with. So, is there any questions? Do we want to go line to line, or?
So the bigger things, I think.
Okay.
So this, I'm gonna guess that the permanent salaries is down because of the retirement?
The appointed official at the top, the salary is mine.
Yep.
And then the clerical, of course, is our secretary, which we have a part of, Sue works for us, and she works for the town accountant, okay? And then the permanent salaries would be the assistant DPW director, Sean, and the fleet mechanic, Tom Souza, okay? As well as the labor of all the men on the combined departments.
All labor?
Yep. Okay, so basically it was the forestry and parks, the highway, and the fleet mechanic, and that was all put into the permanent
Your
salaries.
secretary works for you?
Mm-hmm.
Works for did she work for forestry in the past, or did she work for Public Works?
She worked for the forestry and the highway, and she also works for the town accountant.
And she's not overwhelmed. I can't believe
She
it.
does a,
That's the first
She does
secretary
a
I've
great
heard all
job.
night that isn't overwhelmed.
she does a great
The
job.
town accountant?
Yeah, she's
They're talking about the secretary.
she's extremely efficient
She
person.
really is.
How many hours a week does she work?
I believe it's 35, as all the clericals.
50.
Okay.
Okay?
So big spike in overtime here?
Yeah, I asked for an increase of 5,000, and if you'd notice, we had approved between the 2 budgets, highway and forestry last year, 75,380. We've also already spent, as of December, 78,39, and of course, that has gone up. Now, that is nothing more than guys being called back at night for emergencies, okay? Tree emergencies, which have been crazy this year since last July 1st, as well as police callbacks for the highway for incidences. The men also in the contract secured to go from 3-hour callback to 4-hour callback, so there was a differential that we had to pay from July 1st, as well as the fact that we now have to pay that moving on for any callback.
So the 4 hours retroactive to the beginning of the fiscal year? Is
From,
that what you're
to
saying?
July 1st, yes, okay?
And also about the police details went out.
Police details, well, that's, That's down further than our police line, yes. So that's basically what we anticipate. The increase and the fact that we just get more calls. And we obviously have to respond to everything that, and the overtime in this budget is only for callback. We do not fill shifts. We do not, if a man is out, if 2 men are out, 3 men are out, we do not call anybody, we don't have anybody to call in. So we don't cover shifts. The only time a shift is covered is at the transfer station. If the attendant is out for sick or vacation, then obviously we have to put somebody over there.
And that's been a big part of the overtime, so.
And that, of course, would come out, that comes out of his budget, though.
Yep.
And we've got that to go over, so.
So
Emergencies
it's
and
a
all that.
4-hour minimum? Do they work 4 hours?
If there's a storm,
If there's a
yes.
storm, they'll-
Yeah.
Isn't like
absolutely.
half an hour and going home?
I mean, if they're called in for, say, a tree down across the road
Basically.
at 10, and it's just a rare incidence, they'll come in, they'll deal with it, and then they'll leave, obviously. If we're in a storm mode, as we have been all winter, we get the first call from the police that things are starting to happen. They come in, and then they're in for that 4 hours. We keep them in, absolutely. And usually they go out several more times during that event, but even if they don't, they're there for 4 hours.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so those were the big items. The next one that we asked for an increase in was the beacon and traffic signals. You'll see that, again, the approved in 18 was 6,000. As of December, we had spent 4,500. These are for any time somebody knocks down a signal or they need repair. And quite frankly, the one over at East and East Center gets knocked down every 2
One
weeks.
is probably all of that.
And-
like it.
Every other day. It's crazy.
So the line 45240, property maintenance, it's historically,
5240.
yeah.
Approved in fiscal 18 was 16,700?
16,700, yeah.
Okay.
Been spending quite a bit more than that.
And that's way down from what you had the prior year, the budget, right? Or the
Well, those are the
actual
combination of the two departments. You're talking about property maintenance, right? So
Yeah.
that's the,
5240, yeah.
yeah, so that's the property, that's the forestry and the highway combined now, okay? And we, as of December, had spent 11,004, and we have a total, obviously, of 16,700. We had to replace a fence out behind the building this year that had collapsed. It had been there several years. I don't remember, how much was that?
That was about $5,200.
5,200 just for that. Property maintenance for the forestry and parks basically was for all our properties in town, taking care of them. Property maintenance at the time for highway was basically taking care of the complex out there. Now we put the two together, and we've got to be able to manage not only the property itself, but anything that we've come across in the town park, or any of our commons, or any of our locations in town. So, it doesn't go too far.
So I guess what I'm wondering is, the actual was 27,000, you only had 16, and you already spent 11, so is the 16,700
Sufficient.
right? Is that where you were going, Jerry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And that
I
was
mean,
prior,
it was last year, let's see, so we approved 16.7 at town meeting. We don't have we're at 11.
and that was
Okay.
FY 17, at the 27,000. I wasn't involved with it at that time. Do you remember offhand?
I can't remember it
No.
offhand.
Buy a new truck
at
so
that
that
time-
wouldn't, no, that was
Well,
not
you
vehicle
combined
maintenance,
them,
that's
so
Yes.
property
that-
maintenance.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
We had doors, garage doors, and I forget.
There's been a lot of repairs on the garage doors, yes. In fact,
Yeah. Excuse me.
No issue, yeah.
On the beacons and traffic signals.
yes,
What is that? That's not to fix them, is it?
that's repaired, yes.
What I'm always confused about is it's a state road,
No, it's not a state
It's not a
road.
state road.
106 is not a state road.
The state does not own the road.
We own it. Okay, well, it's simple. We're responsible for everything on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we go to page 2 of this budget. It looks like the whole budget is,
Yeah.
1,000,073. Again, that decrease in the budget is
First one
largely
I've
from the
seen.
decrease in permanent salary. And is that from the retirement of the, no, that wouldn't be.
When Sean was promoted to Assistant Director, his position was not filled. So we're running one-man shot because of that.
So are you, do you have a, will you replace this person, Sean's position, with another worker?
At this point, no,
Okay.
no.
Well, there's a decrease.
Yeah.
How you
It's a-
cut it.
Is there some economies of scale of having forestry and,
Excuse me?
is there an economy of scale with having forestry and highway
In other words,
combined?
are we streamlined? Yes. We,
Okay,
that was a,
People that- Yeah.
that was one of the reasons why I think the selectmen wanted to do it, is we've combined all these resources, not just the monies, but the manpower too. And we're utilizing them for whatever task it, you know, at certain times of the year, the forestry used to be very busy with growing lawns and fields. Now we have more manpower to help out. In the winter, potholes and drainage and all of that stuff, we've got more men to just move around as needed.
It's more of a shared resource model.
Absolutely. And when you have two, in the winter, guys calling sick or on vacation or whatever, you're down 2 or 3 guys. In either of those departments where you've only got had only 4 men in one and 6 in the other, it really can do a job on you. So this way, and the other thing we're doing is we're teaching skills to the old forestry men, teaching highway skills and vice versa.
So you're cross-training.
We're cross-training, yes. Well, not quite the cross-training you probably think of at the gym, no.
No, I wasn't thinking of that.
None of us are.
Teaching skills that they didn't have before.
Yeah. Although I'll bring that up tomorrow, the guys that you folks want them to start doing some cross-training.
are there any manpower or technical or technology or any other challenges that you're anticipating for the department?
We just added a GIS line, okay, because we are going to be using more with that. We are involved with the stormwater management, which is through conservation and DPW, and that is going to require, it is requiring a lot more training and documentation. We did up the line item for dues and meetings, as you can see there. We asked for a small amount, going from 2,500 up to 4,500. And that's for the men, as we found out just recently, they're gonna be required to take what was the course that they talked about at our highway meeting? The,
Stormwater,
no, you know what I'm talking about, the 10, OSHA 10. OSHA 10 is gonna be a requirement, okay? Department of Public Safety, which is the state of Massachusetts, is now going to be working with OSHA guidelines, and that means that municipalities, which in the past had their own rules and regs, are now gonna be under OSHA, and which is gonna require each guy to take the OSHA 10 course, which Sean and I have taken, and that's a cost. We're also finding out that some of the men on the highway wanna learn more about chippers and chainsaws, obviously. So we're gonna be sending them to training for that.
And also the Bay State gas and all that stuff, we have to go to seminars for that. And also there's training with that too for the guys.
Bay State Gas?
Bay State gas, they put seminars on, safety training and all that stuff that we go to, that we have to send the guys to. So that way they can keep up to date with that, what's going on with all the, what's in the ground, you know? There's
Oh, okay.
different colors, all the
Sure,
training. in there.
sure.
So when they're digging out there, they can, something happens, you know?
They don't hit the gas line.
On the, on the salaries, is this including some kind of like a 3%? But most of these departments seem to be adding a 3% increase for folks, is that?
And the permanent salary line?
Well, I guess in all of these, yeah.
Was it
Well, you-
2.5%?
Yeah, you'd have to
2.5%.
go, you'd have to actually go through the salary line itself to look at the new rate, the current rate, and then the new rate.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see the difference
There's a 2.5% increase for the union salaries.
in the rates, when you look at that, you know, the first rate on
Yeah.
6/30/18, new rate 7/1/18,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
kind of is there. In case we wanted to do the math, we could find out the net impact, but
Yeah, I just put my calculator away.
I'll pass on that one. Okay, are there any other questions?
Did you ask the next 2 to 3 year requirement question?
I did, I said, is there any technical or
Coming up,
personnel
anything
challenges
that's
coming
in
up?
the next 2 to 3 years?
We just this past year, both updated our computers with Ed, okay? And that was a big expense for both of us, but we just did that. And when we get to the fleet maintenance budget, he's going to be updating his computer software and a laptop to work with the police better on their diagnosis of cruises and so forth. But that's included in the budget, okay, so, but there is, his technical updates are ongoing, because obviously, every time we buy something new in the fleet, it's a whole new style of maintenance,
Yeah.
you know, it's just what it is. And where we're lucky enough to have all Fords, he is at least able to, whether it's truck or car, or SUV, he's able to keep up with it, so it's been pretty good.
Jerry, if I might, I just want to add something, because the Board of Selectmen, and I'm not saying it just because Anthony's in the room or because people are watching this, they really showed a lot of leadership on this issue, and here's what I mean by that. You'll see that we saved $23,000.
Yeah.
We were able to combine resources, and as part of that savings, we are actually increasing training. And I want, just to put some numbers to it so you really understand, part of the frustration is, most people take vacation time during the warmer months. The forestry department is busier during the warmer months, and yet they only had 4 people. So, one person calls in sick, one person's on vacation, he was a department of 2 for an entire week. If that other one person called in sick, or had a training class, or had somewhere else to be, he had a department of 1. So being able to combine those 2 departments, we're able to get more work done. And during the summer months, when again, there might be more forestry old work to do than highway work, now we can have 8 guys or 10 guys out there doing the work. So that's why the savings, we didn't backfill Sean's old position, because by the economy of scale of putting everybody together, we think that we can get more work done and cross-train people, as he said, so people who didn't know how to use a chainsaw before will now be trained to do it, or a chipper, or whatever the case might be. So we think by saving $23,000, we could still get more people trained and put more people into action on a daily basis. It just makes more sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. As long as nobody at the town works for a Chevy dealership, and we don't have to buy a Chevy.
This is why I wanted to keep everything all the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's, you know,
Otherwise you get 3 sets of
and you
tools
have to
and,
get,
yeah.
yeah, it costs a lot of money, so.
So we have 3 other
Okay.
budgets.
Yep, let's go to 4230,
Okay,
snow removal, that should be,
snow and ice,
okay.
and of course,
So, do you anticipate any need for any trucks? You gonna be bringing any of that to capital budget?
the only,
Or did we settle that last year?
his,
I'm settled.
his trucks are all set.
What brand trucks?
They should be right here at the end of March.
What's that?
Yeah.
Just in time for the 2 snowplows?
Yeah, the 2 trucks that were bought at town meeting in the
One's
fall.
supposed to be ready at the end of
Yes.
March, the other one's supposed to be the middle of April, so we're just gonna wait to the middle of
year.
April, we'll get them both, and we'll have to use them next year.
Yeah.
It might be still snowing then.
Is there anything else doing with any trucks?
The only other trucks, in capital budget, I have put in for a F-150 pickup. And that's replacing my pickup that was a 1999, which is about 20 years old
Should
now.
have given that to the water department,
What's that?
that 99.
Well, you can buy it.
Boom.
can never resist, can I?
You will never have clear water the whole time you live in this town.
And I live across the street.
So you're screwed too.
The snow one, I'm assuming, I mean, 14,000, that must have gone up over the last, we're gonna blow through this budget.
The budget of 90, the 90,
We always do.
91.3
We
is
have
is
to
already.
always do.
Always the same.
I mean, do you think we're gonna be closer to where we were last
Of the
year?
one that's coming in?
What was it
Or
last year,
even higher?
350?
Looks like 346.
340.
Bill
46.
Cheney made us pay?
You know,
Yeah, I'm trying not to, I'm
Yeah,
trying to
I,
avoid that.
I hope not.
I hope not either, but,
Um,
time will tell. Like I said, we just got 3 nor'easters in a matter of
I know.
2 weeks, so.
Just out of curiosity, when last year, we, at the capital budget, approved 2 new snowplows,
Yep,
and they were gonna be, what brand were they gonna be?
they're gonna be, Western Stars.
No, what were they going to be?
Freightliners.
Freightliners, and your guys were schooled on Freightliners.
No, we were trying to keep all the equipment the same,
Right,
so we'd have all the, we didn't have to go and get another, you know.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the impact to the town of this new, what's the new brand?
The new Western Stars.
Yeah, is there an impact?
Well, I think there is, because we had this plan to get Freightliners, and we would have had it all set, all in place. If we had the Freightliners, it would have been here in October. So now, of course, it got delays, we
Oh.
had Western Stars. We're hoping to
Okay.
get them in January.
Okay,
Promised them in January, but of course,
so we missed the whole winter.
so we missed the whole winter, and we had to use the old trucks, and we had to put money into the old trucks, which you didn't want to do, but
So the net impact on the taxpayers was quite high because town meeting voted down the Freightliners.
yes.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Worst case scenario, right?
Well, the town didn't vote it down.
Yes, they did.
They tabled it.
They
No, they voted it down.
voted it, well,
Did
they
they?
basically,
company though?
No,
No.
no,
Two separate.
yeah.
yeah, they basically didn't take any action on it. Right?
Right, right.
Same effect,
Whichever
right?
it was, yeah.
Yeah.
That was
And
unfortunate
that, yes, that was, and that delayed it, what, 5 months?
because it cost the taxpayers
Exactly.
a lot of money.
So
And,
what
you know,
about
we're
the
here for-
maintenance of those trucks? Is it a lot different than what you would have experienced with the, I mean, is there a learning curve or is there a
Well,
tool
the maintenance on these older
impact
trucks that
or?
we've put in those.
No, she's talking
No,
about the
I
new
mean,
ones.
the difference between
Oh.
buying the ones you
Versus the
wanted and
Kenworths.
buying what you got, is there
Uh,
a learning
No.
curve or any?
It shouldn't be,
Not
no,
really, it's
no.
just that
I think the only real problem is that it just delayed it a
it
little
delayed
bit.
it, and it
And-
cost the town money. So
Yeah.
It cost, we're not talking too
Five-
much,
About $5,000.
about 5,000.
Okay, all right.
And
well,
that's for
not too
the
bad.
whole fleet
Yeah,
of
that's not
trucks,
too
you know? Yes, it would have been nice to get those new ones in there sooner, but quite frankly, as we know, town meeting was not going well with that situation. And it
Right.
just took us, we just went back to the drawing table. We used his expertise, and we used
Don't even, let's just go on to
other
the subject.
expertise. And we came to compromise. And quite frankly, you know, it's just coming from different angles, and that's what happens at town meeting, though. You know, you have, it's a democracy,
Competing interests.
and everybody has their own ideas, and if it doesn't work the first round, we go back to the drawing table and try to make it work the second time, you
And
know?
also, just to let you know, that some of these storms, we didn't have one of those trucks. It broke down, we had to wait to get it fixed.
We did
So
have
it
some
put a lot
issues
more
with-
stress on
The road
workers,
looked
a lot of
good.
time, and a lot
Yeah.
more
You,
everything,
you did your usual good job with the roads. I had to go to work yesterday
Yeah.
morning and they were in great shape.
Yeah, they were.
But, and just let me just add, I was only kidding about the water department. I was very impressed actually with Rick Kruger last night. I thought he did a great job. I think he's doing a great job trying to take the water department into the future, as I find all the town employees are trying to do a great job taking the town into the future. And that's benefits the taxpayers a
I
lot.
was thinking ahead, so.
We have a
She always told me.
great group of
Good, really,
department heads
really,
right
that's
now.
what you're
I'm
there for.
telling you, it's,
Very professional to be thinking about the
it
future.
really is. It's very-
So why don't we go to the snow removal?
Yeah.
Snow and ice, we just talked about, obviously, we've gone over the 91.3, and we're trying to get through the remainder of the winter.
Yeah,
Each storm has been different. The second nor'easter, which was basically rain and wind, we had a lot of overtime, but it was in-house. We didn't have to call in any subcontractors because there was no snow. So, and I have to say, these guys work their butts off. You've got a group of, what, 8 or 9 men
Yep.
that are working 23, 24 hours more, going home for a couple hours sleep and coming back, the same group. And that's to keep the town safe and protected and respond whatever police and fire ask us to do. So, very dangerous, and they do a real good job. You know, so.
What's this snow removal at, I mean, do you know what it's at right now?
Do we have a,
Yeah, but,
Yeah, as of, we run on a month-to-month basis, so as of the
Yeah.
end of February is about $90,000.
Okay, so that doesn't include,
It doesn't include the last three
Last-
storms, and we just had to
Yeah.
purchase more salt.
yeah,
So,
okay, all right, okay.
Because the price was low when you had to do that, right?
Yeah. That's good. 4240?
Trailers.
Do we have any other, we don't have any other questions on this? Okay, 4240,
Actually, just one quick one.
Sure.
If you wouldn't mind, on the sand and salt, I noticed back in 17, you were spending almost 207,000. Yet the last 18 was 39, and this year was 39. I mean, if we need it, do we, what was the significance to drop 200,000?
Yeah, that's a good question.
on the
I didn't
salt?
notice.
Yeah.
Do you want me to answer
You
that?
making it yourself?
Yeah,
No.
actually.
No. We're actually using a lot more liquid this time and all that stuff too, but if we need the salt, we get it where we can, because we don't know what next year's gonna be.
Right.
So, it all depends, each storm's different, if we can go out and we can plow a couple, go out and salt and then plow, that's different, but these other storms that people don't understand is that if we get a 5-inch storm and it prolongs for like 10, 12 hours, you use a lot more salt.
Right.
So every year's different, no matter what it is.
That was
Yeah.
a really bad year, as I recall, right? You got, that was like the year we got
Blizzards.
so many
Blizzards,
storms.
yeah.
2015 is when we
Yeah.
really got it.
Yeah.
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 Thanks.
So 42,
Good question.
which one are you on now?
40.
4240, the lighting?
Yes.
Okay, that's pretty well fixed. There is a 10,000 increase, and that's based on basically what we get billed for our lighting.
So we don't, does it get any impact from the solar?
I believe we buy,
That's still a mystery, isn't it?
Yeah,
No,
that's a
but
mystery.
it reflects it. The difference is the National Grid pricing is increased.
That's
and
right,
every-
about 34%,
And every
right?
time that you add a subdivision, you add more lights. You have to pay for them. And as we know, there's been a lot more growth in town. And so, quite frankly, if you look at 77,000, not much different than it was a couple of years ago. Part of that benefit is because we are getting the credits from the solar. But there's more streets, there's more street lights, there's bills.
Yeah,
higher.
good point, good, very good point. I didn't even think about
We pulled
that.
in that company, I think they're from New Jersey, remember was it an outside supplier or?
That's for
Oh, that was for
electrical aggregation.
residential.
No, yeah, that's for electrical aggregation, that has nothing to do with the streetlights. That's just that way, if you chose to take part of it, if you want to have an opportunity to lower your electric bill, you could. But but the streetlights.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, they
okay,
haven't-
that wasn't.
The streetlights are a direct, bill from National Grid.
Okay. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Waste disposal, 4330.
Waste.
okay? So that one was kept out of the DPW general budget, and pretty much it's what it is. It's the transfer station and the operation of it. And there was one impact that we asked for an increase up to an additional 4,000 to up to $5,000 for the hazardous waste disposal, and that's pretty much what we're finding on the sides of the road, picking up
Oh,
and having to
really?
get rid of. Yeah.
Wow.
You want to speak on that? or-
Yeah.
You mean like people throwing stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
What it is, if they can't get rid of the transfer station, they get mad, and you're gonna
Find it on
find stuff
Scotland
heavy
Road.
that-
I've
tires
had
and
that
all that.
happen.
Oh, yeah.
Random
and
stuff that
there's
people
more
just
you see out
toss in
there.
your yard.
Yeah.
All that comes at a cost, and actually Trajano's and Bridgewater Recycling actually have gone up on their prices. As of, I think it was last year, from $75 a load of hazardous waste to $125 a dumpster. Whatever we bring up, like a truck or whatever it is, it's a whack for $125. So no matter what it is, if it's oil or something else, then we have to get rid of that too. We have to call, the environmental and all that, and they have to get rid of it like that, so.
But
Did
isn't
they
that
take that at the
recycled?
transfer station?
Well, if we find it on the side of the road.
Oh,
No,
no, because
we-
you don't know what it is.
We don't know what it is, so
Yeah.
we actually, we have to get rid of it at a special place, so, for that.
They don't take oil at the transfer station.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they do, I thought so, yeah,
Yep.
there's a special place. For it.
special.
So
part,
if
yeah.
people bring it there, then you don't have that problem.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Is there anything that the transfer station isn't offering people? that they
We can't
could
get rid
use?
of, the wood. There's a lot of wood there. We get rid of ACs, dishwashers, stoves, microwaves, all metal stuff, products. Cartridges, ink cartridges, batteries and all that.
Yeah.
It's pretty much, when it comes to brush, wood, and, it's pretty much about it. And it's a big impact on that, because if it goes through the dumpster and, CMAS or whoever gets it at the time that ABC brings it to, and they spot it, they actually will find the town for it, so.
So
We
it's
have to be real
flammable.
careful.
Can you burn it?
You can burn it, just whatever you wanna do, but, yeah, they
No,
just
I
can't
mean,
take it.
up there.
Or the transfer, no, we can't burn it all up
No.
there. No, not at all.
No.
We are accepting brush after the last, the second nor'easter, the one that was all rain and wind. We are accepting brush at the transfer station for a limited time, and then we're gonna bring in a tub grinder, which will dispose it right on site, turn it into chip. A very expensive operation, but we felt that it would be nice
Why
for
don't
the
we
residents.
charge a fee for that? Why don't we charge a fee for that?
Well, that's a
No,
tough
the
one.
administration of that would be more costly than the fee. I mean,
Have
who's
to
gonna
have it
manage it?
monitored.
Yeah.
It's a section further down from the actual transfer station, and we'd have to monitor it,
Yeah,
every
that's
time,
true.
which means
Right.
an employee.
Right.
But this has given a chance for
Good point.
people that have got tons of trees down in their yards, to get them to the transfer station for a limited time. Right now, it's through the end of March. We may extend that. And, because obviously now everything's covered with snow, no one can do their yard work. It doesn't happen too often, but after a major storm with a lot of trees down, it makes sense to try to give the residents an opportunity, so.
When does this contract come up for renewal, these solid waste and all those other contracts that kill us?
And, solid waste is a 10-year contract.
Oh,
with-
okay.
With some renewal.
Okay, okay. All right, so we're not looking at any
Does
big,
it reprice during that time?
no.
We're a good negotiator.
Yeah.
Can you remind me the fees that we charge for the transfer station in comparison to what it costs? Is there, like, do we get 50%? How much do we recoup? Do we know?
What's a transfer station? Oh, it's $85.
It's $85. And so, last year, we brought in, I'd say about 40 to 45% of what your actual budget is.
Is that a finite facility? Probably is. You can only bring so much trash, and then you have to close it, right?
Yeah, it's from 7 to 4:30.
No, I mean, just trash.
Well, where it goes. you're
Does it
talking
get, could it
about.
get
goes to-
overwhelmed in a day? Like,
No,
Where
but
it
is
gets
it?
filled and they can't come
Oh,
pick
it's
up.
just a transfer station,
have-
that's
Yeah.
right.
Right.
We,
You're not permanent.
yeah, we never
Yeah.
really had an
No.
issue with that.
That's right.
They have incinerators and all that stuff, so they
Yeah.
burn it, they do other stuff, but, they're trying to get rid of the landfills as it is, so.
Not gonna get any cheaper.
okay,
Recycle, that's the key.
Right.
Yep.
And that's what we're trying to get people to do, recycle, because the more they recycle, the less they put in, the actual trash. So, it's education, and there needs to be more of it, and we're gonna work on that. DEP wants it. They've got guidelines and help for us on how to get the education out there. And, quite frankly, we all know that some people don't recycle. They just don't wanna take the time to do it. So, we can't pick their bags apart though, so we just hope and with signage and with guidance that people will recycle, and that's going to help.
So if they recycle, it will save them money, the town money.
It
and
will.
then tax money.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the environment.
And the
Right.
environment, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but a lot of times it comes down to what's in it
I
for me,
know.
right?
I know, well, what's in it for your children?
Right.
there any other questions? No?
Thank you, guys.
You're
very
welcome.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. We had a lot of help. Our secretary, Sue, has been wonderful doing this, and of course, Dave's office. This is the first time, and it's a learning curve, but I think it's gonna work out well, and Sean and I work very well together.
That's great.
Gonna say, you guys,
We only
getting
fight
along
once
okay?
in a while, yeah.
Every day's a challenge.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I know that challenge all too well.
Ouch.
Okay, so I'll just keep going, leading the meeting.
No,
We have to
there's
We have to
definitely
approve the meeting
some,
minutes of,
there's some shared genes there. She's a piece of cake, my girl. All right, sorry, what are we doing?
we have to approve the meeting minutes of February 22nd. And do we have the minutes from, we don't have the minutes from last week to accept for review, right?
No, I just, that was a draft.
No, I meant March 8th.
Oh, sorry.
Not yet, I don't think we do.
Okay.
All right, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Would anyone like to make a motion in relation to the minutes? Would anyone like to approve the minutes?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes because we
Are being
accepted
asked
them
to.
for review already.
Yeah.
Yes.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. And the other item we had on our agenda was to talk
Yeah.
about the Finance Committee bylaw. That's something that's gonna come up later on in, I guess in budgeting season, but I kind of wanted to throw it out there as possibly being discussed. We're talking about potentially, changing how we're appointed and the size, potentially. I mean, as we are, we're 9 members. We have 2 open spots, and I don't know about you guys, but there's no line out the door that I've seen.
Shame.
Yeah, so
Well, I
if,
mean, but even given the size of the town.
Yes,
yes,
right.
absolutely.
We don't need anything else.
Space either. We have limited space.
But actually, if anyone does know anyone who would be interested, please let them know, because we do have
very
seats
much.
for 2 more.
I'd like to get a current copy of that.
All right, does anyone have anything else to bring before the committee?
No.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?